Good morning, everyone. It's Thanksgiving Day. Yesterday, I showed you how I cooked sweet potatoes and put them through a ricer, and this is it. The recipe calls for 3 cups, but I actually included 4. I want to talk to you just a second about my recipe. This is a recipe that it's a family favorite. Right there I have written Lindsay's favorite. I tried several, but this is the one that I settled on because it is by far the best. This is a book that I've lost the cover, but as you can see, it came from the Gethsemane Circle Williston United Methodist Church. And they just asked a bunch of people to give them recipes, and this particular recipe came from a lady in Newport, North Carolina, and her name is Lorraine Langston. So I'm going to start here with 4 cups of the sweet potato that I put through the ricer. I'm going to add to that sugar, cinnamon, and salt. And what I do, the recipe called for 1.5 cups of sugar, but I try not to use that much sugar, particularly if the sweet potatoes are a little sweet. So this is about a cup and a quarter. I'm going to add, now I added to this recipe a teaspoonful of salt because I felt like it was needed after I used it several times. So I'm going to put a teaspoonful of salt in my sugar. Then I'm going to add a teaspoonful of cinnamon to my sugar mixture. And then I'm just going to mix that all up and get that thoroughly integrated. It's going to look like this. I feel like if I do this process, when I add it to the potato itself, it's just blended a lot better. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to slip this in here just like this. And then I'm going to put these eggs in here in this bowl so I'll have some room. The recipe calls for 2 eggs, but I didn't feel like these are real large eggs, and I added more sweet potatoes, so I'm actually going to use 3 eggs. So I want to blend them together a little bit more like this because I feel like they just go in the mixture so much easier when you do this. So now I'm going to blend all this together. Perfect. Now I'm going to add my 3 eggs and a 1/2 cup of milk. I just happen to have 1% milk on hand. This is what's going in it. If you have whole milk, that's perfect. If you have only skim milk, that's fine too. Just use whatever you have on hand. It's going to be fine. No worries about the milk. I was asked yesterday when I was sharing this recipe with my niece, because she's making it right now, she said, what about carnation canned milk? And I said, well, I guess you could do carnation canned milk. I said, but I never have. I feel like that just adds an entirely different consistency as well as flavor. So I just kind of stick with what I used in the past and what has worked. So you want to integrate the milk, the eggs. See what it looks like? Can you take a shot? This is what it looks like. Kind of really looks like pie filling. But now that's perfect. I'm telling you, this right here is simply perfect. Now, you can put it in a lot of different dishes. Pretty dishes are really nice, but I have a lot of things that have to go in this oven, and I don't have a lot of time to spare. So if I put it in a larger dish that's thinner, it will cook a lot faster. So I'm just going to put this in this casserole dish, spray it well. This is perfect. Okay, as you can see, it's going to be thin, but I have to have it thin today because I have to get this cooked. I have several things that need to come go in the oven as soon as the turkey comes out, and this is one of them. Um, Green bean casserole has to go in there. My dressing has to go in there. So I have a lot of different things right now that I need to cook. Now this is your topping, and I did all this yesterday. It requires a cup of chopped pecans. So I did that. Then it requires a third of a cup of all-purpose flour, 2/3 cups of light brown sugar, and a third of a cup of butter. Whenever a recipe says margarine, I do not listen to that. I use butter and butter alone. So, and the butter was at room temperature. So I just took the flour, the brown sugar, and the pecans and put them in a bowl and just really mixed it very thoroughly. And then I added the butter and and it created this, which is just very crumbly. It's very, very crumbly. So my hands are clean, and I'm just going to place this on this souffle. And you want to try to evenly spread this as much as you can. Now, you don't really have to add this topping. Actually, when Lindsay was growing up, she preferred that we not put this topping on. She liked it better without it. And at the end of the meal, she would go get a bowl. She would fill it full of sweet potato souffle, and then she would add a scoop of vanilla ice cream, and that was her dessert. And I will never see this recipe, but I want to think of Lindsay. I guess that's the way it is with recipes. You've got that one person in your family that they just absolutely love a certain item, and so when you make it, you think of them. So when I make this, I think of our Lindsay. So this is it. Isn't it pretty? I think it's pretty. Now I'm just going to set this aside. It's going to be fine. Yes, it does have eggs in it, but you don't want it to be super, super cold when you put it in the refrigerator. If it's at room temperature, it'll cook a lot faster. So I'm just going to put this aside and slip it in the oven in just a few minutes. And when we take it out of the oven, I'll show you what it looks like. We've finished with the sweet potato souffle, just poured it out of the oven. I'm going to, well, actually it's been out for probably about 5 minutes. I could not eat it if it had just come out of the oven. But this is what it looks like. That has a little bit, well, it's still hot. But as you can see, this is the consistency of it. It's still very hot, but I'm going to try it. Heaven, just plain heaven.